Welcome back, everybody, to The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD.
Yeah.
I contemplated just having a cold intro. I thought about it.
But no, we gotta. It's a new dawn for each of these, just like it's a new dawn in the game right now.
That was some good timing there.
I'm so fucking poetic. It's not even funny. That's actually a huge problem I've been having at work. Is my bosses are like, Jake, you can't be sending when you close. You can't be sending emails that are 4 paragraphs long. But I gotta tell you stuff. It's like, all right, but try to use words we can understand. And I'm just using the normal vernacular in my everyday lexicon.
And then they're like,
then I get
Jake, come on.
And then I get blank stares. and that's why I don't get raises. That's not why I don't get raises.
Because you're too verbose.
Yeah.
Aha!
I get complimented on my vocabulary quite a bit. But I'm, just like everyone, I'm fond of certain words. Like, I love the word prerogative.
I love the made-up compound word shitbird.
Shitbird's pretty good. But we didn't come up with that.
Nope, we sure fucking didn't.
I haven't used Terabad in a while. I think the last time I used it was...
Remember when you were all over that
Dude,
shit?
Terabad used to be the shit. It's amazing at, holy crap. I know it's the thing as you get older that, as you look back, time just seemed to fly by. But, it actually feels like that.
And all the stupid shit you did.
Yeah. Holy cow, 2014 felt like nothing. I can't be the only one who feels that way, because, 2013 felt like a more... It didn't feel like it went by as quickly as 2014. But I don't know if that's just me growing older, or if 2014, just in terms of how the events were laid out, the brain kind of categorizes it as a quicker year.
It's weird trying to categorize temporal feeling.
Yeah, especially since it's all... That's great. It's just what are those
That
called?
was a miss, by the way.
Yeah. It's no, I'll fight you later. I want to talk to this fish.
This fish man.
So,
that is what they
Jay
are.
Bizzo and I were discussing it shortly before starting this, but, if you notice that I'm kind of quiet my audio's kind of quiet, it's because I normally talk very loudly, just because...
You have a tendency to clip.
Yeah, so my microphone settings...
And it hasn't been doing it, so I told him don't fuck with it.
Yeah, because we can always boost my audio. We can't always unclip audio. So... addressing this issue 25 parts in.
On a video no one will watch.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So I told everybody to skip to, part 30.
Oh, man. These dice islands.
Don't you feel like a fool for watching this?
Yeah, I certainly do. Oh, man.
I feel like a fool for recording this. Why did I do this?
Did you just shoot a cannonball out of the air with your own cannonball?
I think I did. I wasn't paying much attention.
I mean, I guess they're bombs, but whatever. God, that sail is handy. Holy shit. You would have to, cruise around in here. Because you wouldn't be... Because just changing the
Changing the wind would be, it would be inefficient.
Yes. Well, the Zelda Wii U is looking to have an interesting travel mechanic. And of course, I'm dating this video.
People are bitching about, no surprise.
Yeah. People are careful, don't date the video because you want people to derive entertainment from it, afterwards. But it's gonna be dated anyway, just with our recording practices and how our voices sound and how we present
And
ourselves.
plus, with an upcoming release, can look back on something like this and see, did the actual final product match up with what our thoughts were of it initially?
My favorite instance of that happening was the Penny Arcade comic for the announcement of Metroid Other M, in which they're all super hyped.
Super hyped,
and then
the actual game is just like, what the fuck is this?
They never mention it again. That's the best part. That actually reminds me of my favorite Awkward Zombie comics when they were doing the whole Ridley and Smash Bros. Deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's everyone's interviewing Ridley for his inclusion, but Samus is like staunchly disagreeing. And like, come on, Samus, team up with your villains isn't always bad. You may learn to like them. And she's just sitting there, arms crossed, scowling. She's like, he killed my parents. And Ridley's just like showing like, what? The one time?
This the one time.
Oh, those comics are great. Man, how sad is it that Brawl in the Family is dead? Not dead, but like ended.
Well,
I think I already said.
mentioned this before. You can't call it
for 3DS Wii U
before
in the
Wii U
family.
in the family.
Yeah. God.
Because jokingly, that was the reason that it was ended.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't use that as a joke answer. God, I don't know. I'm kind of like not completely happy with where video games are going. Just because I think we're in like...
we discussed one of the reasons last time.
And part of it is, I think we're in an era, much like when the technology was first starting out, where they have an idea on what they...
Get the fuck back here, Beetle!
They have an idea on what they're doing based on based on precedents, but they don't know what to do with the new technology on hand. And part of that is, video games are becoming more and more expensive to make, which is why, like, the movie tie-in game concept is quickly dying out. So, like...
Even though that doesn't make any sense.
Why?
Because you just take a cookie-cutter concept and apply a movie license to it.
Yeah, but asset creation alone, especially with the higher graphics in the new consoles and whatnot, is a lot more expensive than it used to be. Hell, even from last generation. Here's a really good example of what I'm talking about. The Order 1886, which just came out. A lot of the controversy is the fact that it's only like a 5.5-hour game. So, with very little replayability. But it is a very good looking game. Like, I don't think there's any games that aren't extremely stylized that kind of match how good it looks. So it was made on the same budget as a 60-hour game. Actually, that's another thing I'm going to talk about. But because a lot of that money went to asset creation, everything is so short, but it still has to be priced the same in order for them to make money, sufficient money back. And now there's also the other issue that games are just getting shorter, and this also ties into it becoming more expensive to make them. What with asset creation and voice acting, and so we're no longer getting these games where you could easily net in like hundreds of hours, unless they're made under a very specific developer, like the Elder Scrolls series. A lot of Bethesda RPGs kind of do this, but that's because it's more modular. and the player this isn't entirely in a good way, but the player kind of adds their own substance to the game. And I'm not just talking about mods. I'm talking about just how you play the game. Like, are you gonna role play it? Are you just gonna run through it? Well, especially with like the Fallout games, are you gonna play it like a first-person shooter, a role-playing game, third person, what have you? Are you going to do self-imposed challenges? Are you gonna act like you would in there? And there, some of the stuff that's not tied into like dialogue trees.
Are you gonna get all the gold and the dead money?
Yeah, are you going to get everything? And if you look back on like even in like the GameCube games, like Wind Waker, there isn't as
the game we're talking about right now, except the standard definition version.
Yeah, there isn't as much stuff. But what is there has a lot more substance than what we can get now, because it wasn't... I mean, Wind Waker's kind of a bad example, because development on that was kind of cut short due to...
Yeah, we've discussed before how this game was like, we can make a game on a deadline and stick to that deadline.
And they made a really good game. Like, I just kind of want to see what would have happened had they been able to work on and refine it at their leisure. But I mean, I guess it worked in that it proved that they could do what they said they could do, and future games is what they're gonna just do what they want to do. It's like any media where you have an audience, like not like an intended audience, because paintings and like that kind of stuff has an audience, but it's not like it's the type of audience where you expect them to sit down and be focused on it for hours. So but that's kind of what I want to see from these AAA developers, even if they have to take a more stylized art approach, is to focus a bit less on how the game looks, and more on the substance of the game. Backstory, character designs, level designs, world building.
Are we not hitting this, if not hitting, approaching this plateau where the graphics just aren't going to get any better?
Yeah, that's kind of where we are right now, in that, like, this is probably the smallest graphical jump since the inception of video games. And part of that is graphical displays have gone so far beyond what the human eye can normally see. Because you can get a finer and finer picture until you don't notice the pixels. But pixels from the outset were designed so that it tricks the human eye into seeing these shapes. So after a certain point, it becomes imperceptible in its difference. People are like, oh, 4K, I can totally tell the difference, but especially to the average consumer, it all looks the same. So while the tricks that they were using still work, the new tricks, there haven't been new tricks to come along to supplant them that are more efficient or look better perceptibly. Now you could get like right now the limitation is like processing power, which is why like certain assets like two-dimensional grass and stuff, where it's just like a flat texture and then you intersect it at an X formation. That's due to a limitation in the processing power, because polygons, take a lot more polygonal models take a lot more processing power than flat textures.
And that's a limitation that has existed for decades.
Yeah. So now it's more focused on kind of the background, where they're looking at it and they're like, okay, we can make this better by rendering every individual blade of grass as its own polygon model, but then the computer will just melt.
Yes. There's an example of this years and years ago. The weird development cycle that led to Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
So you're aware of Zelda.
Yeah.
So you have talks about just like footprints being permanently left in the sand, and it's just like, we don't need this in our video game.
No, the prioritization of like what's cool versus what's practical. And like, obviously this is the smallest jump graphically we've had in video games since between any generation. Like, the biggest one was obviously going from 2D sprites to polygons. And hell, even now we have very good looking sprites, like with Skullgirls and Darkest Dungeons, and obviously that's more indie stuff, because making a sprite is a lot cheaper than making a polygon model, especially if you want it to look good.
And it's popular,
yeah,
because the 16-bit sprite is just something that will never go away.
16-bit sprites hold up because
it will always be cool.
They look good. Whereas, if you look at older polygon models, especially early PS1 games, or a lot of the N64
if you
games,
want to lose your lunch,
they're ugly as fuck, and a lot of the appeal comes from nostalgia. And actually, I was talking about that last night. I remembered one more game that I had nostalgia for, and that's Super Mario 64. So, because I'll admit, yeah, it looks like ass, but I have fun playing it. I would like to honestly see, I kind of want to see Nintendo do a budget Mario title, where they basically sit down and go, okay, what did we do to make Super Mario 64's levels so good? Let's recreate that. Where it's not just a straight line, you have the multiple paths throughout, and they kind of attempted that with the individual planets in Super Mario Galaxy, but I would like to see that as the main fulcrum of each level. But I get I get off track, and I would honestly consider the second biggest jump in graphical quality, not between the what are we on, the 7th or 8th generation? 8th. Not between 5th and 6th generation video games, but 6th and 7th generation. GameCube, PS2,
I can see
Xbox 2.
You have this jump to HD as the major format, with one exception.
Yeah, and not only do the polygons no longer look like upgraded versions of the previous generation, they look so much better. The display quality is improved vastly too, and that kind of combined to make it that much more drastic a change. Now, granted, it didn't happen all at once. If you look at Cameo for the Xbox 360, which is the only one that comes to mind.
That's
because I fucking played that game with my friend.
That's hilarious to look at.
Honestly, it's obvious they didn't know what to do with the hardware, because it looks worse than a lot of a lot of titles that come just before it, and that's understandable with new technology, especially since 6th generation I think lasted quite a while, didn't it?
No longer than previous.
No.
Like, we're talking 2000 to 2006.
Okay. But it lasted long enough that a lot of developers had kind of learned the tricks to make their games look and play as good as they can. And I'm
talking, like, average.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not counting Dreamcast.
No, yeah. Actually, if we're talking about...
And I'm not counting the, like, still surviving PS2.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? PS2 they completely stopped official support in, like, 2012, 2013.
It's been a significant amount of time.
Yeah, like, PlayStation 2 could, I think, is the most successful...
It is the highest selling console ever.
That was a hell of a shot. And I never had a PS2. I don't have any childhood with it, and I played a couple games on it at friends' houses, but I'm a huge Nintendo fanboy. I always will be. Where was I going?
You were talking about
yeah.
Generation gaps.
Oh yeah, so one thing I really love is looking at video games that are late in each generation, because they, how much they know about the system affects what they can do with the game. And a good example of that is Shantae for the
on the Game Boy Color. I figured you might bring this
because
up.
it came out after the Game Boy Advance, and it looks better than some Game Boy Advance games.
You take a look at a game like Shantae, and then just to throw an example out there, you have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's or Sorcerer's Stone on the GBA.
I still have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone on the GBA. It looks like ass.
It does.
It's a horrible game. Chamber of Secrets wasn't much better looking, but it was a much better game. Now, granted, you have games like Golden Sun, which looks very good, but that's the same.
It came out at around the same time, honestly.
It came out before Shantae did.
Yes, it did.
Almost a year. But it benefits from the same...
I'm talking about, the same time as Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh, yeah. But Golden Sun benefits kind of the same graphically as Super Mario RPG, in that it's sprites that are taken from 3D models. Because when you do that, you can work on a 3D model without, put a lot of time and effort without having to worry about truly animating it. Because the animations
you have maybe 10 total sprites for one character.
Yeah, and you can make that
you don't
sprite
have to.
look
You
good.
don't have to worry about animating it that much, other than just shuffling around.
Now, granted, it's it can still look dated, and obviously doesn't look good as what pure 16-bit sprites can achieve, but it doesn't look bad. I was looking at Super Mario RPG. Recently, I still consider it a good-looking game.